I've always loved hunting. There's something about the forest that pulls me in the damp soil, the creaking of ancient trees, and how, when everything goes quiet, even your own breath sounds too loud. My friends George, Edward, and I have made it a tradition every fall. A few days away from work, the city, and people, just us, the wild, and whatever it is we're after. This year, we chose Deepwood Ridge. None of us had ever been there before, but George claimed he'd heard good things, remote, untouched, and rich with game. It took us hours to get there, the truck bouncing along rough trails, and just as the sunset was turning the sky purple, we found a spot that felt right. We set up camp in a small clearing. Edward was nervous, as usual, kept glancing up at the trees while we unloaded the gear. "This place, it feels off," he muttered, mostly to himself. I looked over at him, half amused. Edward was always like this, seeing shadows where there weren't any. "Relax," George said, giving Edward a pat on the shoulder. "It's just the silence. You're not used to it." Edward tried to smile, but I could see the tension in his jaw. The silence really was different. Usually, the forest hums with insects, birds, the rustling of little creatures, but here it was just still, like the trees were listening. We built a fire, and the flickering lights somehow made the clearing feel smaller. Edward kept his back to the trees. George and I just laughed it off, but I couldn't shake that creeping feeling on my shoulders, like something was watching us. We ate in near silence, the crackling of the fire sounding way too loud. George suggested a night walk to see if we could spot any tracks before morning. Edward hesitated, but eventually gave in. We strapped on our headlamps, grabbed our rifles, and picked a path through the dense underbrush. The fog settled in quickly, thicker than anything I'd seen before. Our lights barely cut through it, shadows twisting and shifting all around us. We stayed close, not wanting to split up until we were sure the area was safe. At one point, Edward lagged behind, muttering that he heard footsteps that didn't match ours. I glanced back to check on him, but he looked normal, just tense. Then George suddenly stopped, raising his hand. We froze, straining to listen. Nothing, just our breathing, then a snap, to the right. George motioned for us to head that way, but Edward whispered, "No, we shouldn't." George shook his head and pressed on. We followed, the tension knotting tighter in my chest. About 100 meters in, I caught the smell metallic heavy. We found the deer half buried in the brush, its ribcage split open like a piece of fruit. No scavengers, no insects, just raw, exposed flesh, glistening wet in the beam of our lights. "A bear," I whispered, even though I knew it wasn't. The cuts were too clean. George crouched down, examining the ribs. I've never seen a bear do this. No tracks either. He glanced back, and I caught something in his eyes' uncertainty. George wasn't the type to scare easily. A rustle behind us made Edward jump. I turned, sweeping my light over the trees. Nothing. Just that thick, breathing silence. George said we should head back. Edward didn't argue. When we got back to camp, Edward had collapsed onto his pack, pale and silent. George was digging through the gear, looking for extra batteries. That's when I caught a scent: damp earth and rot. I looked at Edward. He was staring at me, his face drawn tight. "You okay?" I asked. His eyes didn't leave mine. "You disappeared earlier," he said slowly. "No, I didn't. I was right behind you." Edward hesitated. "You moved weird. You didn't answer when I called. You just kept walking." Before I could respond, George came back, mumbling that the battery pack felt lighter than he remembered. I didn't press the issue, but Edward didn't stop watching me. That night, my sleep came in broken pieces. The fire had burned low, and shadows stretched long across the tent walls. At one point, I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. I looked outside, but beyond the fading light, nothing moved. When I glanced back at Edward, he was awake, and staring right at me. Morning came grey and grim. George was gone. His things were still piled by the fire pit, his rifle leaning against a tree. Edward started to panic, calling out for him, but I just felt numb. It was like the camp wasn't quite the same as we'd left it the night before. We searched the area, making wider and wider circles. No tracks, no signs. The forest felt denser than before, the branches hanging lower, the fog clinging even in daylight. Hours later, we found him, more what was left of him. George's body was wedged beneath the roots of an old tree, his face sunken, his chest hollowed out. Edward started sobbing, but I just stared. Something looked wrong, like he'd been there longer than just a few hours, like he had rotted from the inside out. A twig snapped. I turned, but the forest was empty. When I looked back at George's body, something felt off, maybe the angle of his head. I blinked, and whatever it was gone. Edward grabbed my arm, pulling me away. We need to go, now. When we got back to camp, the fire was out. Our gear was scattered, torn apart like animals had rummaged through it. Edward blamed me, said I'd gone out during the night and messed with the supplies. I didn't argue. I couldn't remember. That night, I heard Edward muttering in his sleep. He said my name over and over. When I woke him, he flinched, eyes wide and terrified. You're not you, he whispered. What's that supposed to mean? You keep changing, your voice. It's not right sometimes. Your face, it looks wrong. After that, I didn't sleep. I just watched him, trying to understand what he saw when he looked at me. By dawn, he was gone too. No tracks, just his boots left by the fire. Now I'm alone. Or maybe I always was. Sometimes I hear my own voice calling from between the trees, calling me back. When I look in the mirror, my face doesn't feel familiar, like I'm wearing someone else's skin. The silence in the forest feels heavier now, pressing against my skull like a vice. I haven't eaten anything since yesterday. Food feels wrong in my hands, gritty and appetizing. I force down a few bites, but they sit heavy in my stomach. Edward's boots are still by the fire pit, right where he left them. I stare at them, trying to remember if I heard him leave. I was awake, wasn't I? I was watching him sleep. I think I saw him sit up, eyes blank, and walk into the dark. I wanted to call him back, but something stopped. Like my voice didn't belong to me. I spent the morning retracing our steps, searching for any sign of George or Edward. The forest swallows my shouts, gives nothing back, only echoes. At one point, I swear, I saw someone between the trees, a figure moving slowly, head bowed. I called out, but it didn't turn. I pushed through the underbrush to catch up, but there was no one there. Just tracks in the mud, some mass of others, human. When I returned to camp, I found my own bag torn open, its contents scattered. The radio was gone, and my rifle had been snapped in two, as if someone or something had bent it across their knee. I crouched beside the wreckage, trying to make sense of it. My hands are shaking. I don't remember leaving camp, but the fog in my head keeps thickening, and there's a taste in my mouth, metallic and stale. At dusk, I burn the remaining firewood, but the flames look smaller, more fragile. Shadows leap and stretch, and I catch myself listening for footsteps that never come. Then I hear it again, my own voice from the tree line, flat and hollow. It's calling my name. I grip the hunting knife tighter, knuckles bone white. "Who's there?" I shout, but my voice cracks. The forest drinks the sound, gives nothing back. I don't sleep, I just sit by the fire, eyes scanning from tree to tree. At some point, I hear it, a soft, scraping sound, like something crawling just beyond my line of sight. And then I see him, George, standing at the edge of the clearing, half in shadow. His head is tilted too far, like his neck is broken. I swallow hard. George, he doesn't move, just stares. Slowly, I rise to my feet, the knife trembling in my hand. "What happened to you?" A rasp escapes his mouth, like a laugh forced through torn vocal cords. "Don't you remember?" The voice is wrong, like something trying to mimic George, but not quite getting it right. I take a step forward, and he mirrors me. His head slowly straightens until it's upright. The grin is too wide, teeth bared. "You're the only one left," he whispers. My pulse hammers in my ears. "What do you mean?" George just watches me, and his form flickers like static, like he's almost there, but not quite. I blink, and he's gone. Only the trees remain, swaying gently in the night breeze. I sink to the ground, breath shallow. I try to piece it together. George was dead. We found his body. So what did I just see? And then it hits memories that don't quite fit. Edward saying I left the camp, saying I didn't look right. The supplies destroyed while I slept. The way the food tasted wrong. The way my voice echoed back at me, familiar but off. I pull the cracked mirror from my pack and turn it toward the firelight. My own eyes stare back, but too dark, too sunken. My face looks thin, like I haven't eaten in weeks. I touch my cheek, and my skin feels wrong tight, like something stretched too hard over bone. Maybe I never left that forest. Maybe whatever hunted us took me first, and whatever's left, whatever I am now, is just a copy mimicking what it remembers. But then if I'm not me, why am I still afraid? Why do I still want to survive? The fire is dying, and I can't stay here. I hear movement again, this time circling the camp. Press my back to a tree, grip the knife tighter, try to steady my breath. Edward's voice comes from the darkness, calling my name. I know it isn't him. I know it's only the echo of something that's already gone. The thing wearing my face steps slowly, deliberately into the firelight. It watches me with dark, hollow eyes. I don't know if it's real, or if I'm outside myself, watching my own unraveling. I whisper into the dark, half hoping something will answer. If I'm not me, then who am I? The figure smiles, and I know it doesn't matter. Whether I'm real or not, the thing out there isn't done yet. The forest stretches out around me, endless and patient, waiting for me to understand. Maybe now I am the monster, and the only thing left to hunt is myself.